India left out as Gulf War rewrites power equation, strategic weakness, or calculated silence. The ongoing Gulf conflict isn't just reshaping West Asia, it's quietly exposing uncomfortable truth about India's global standing, forcing New Delhi to the delicate balancing act where silence often speaks louder than statement. Because while public discourse is busy asking why Pakistan seems to have found a seat at the table with the United States and Iran, the real story lies deeper in India's strategic limitations as the government cannot openly admit that it is not a neutral player, but one whose interests are intertwined with multiple opposing camps, including the US, Israel, and key Arab partners, while still maintaining critical ties with Iran, making an overt positioning diplomatically risky in a post war world where India will need strong relations with both the victor and the defeated, and its complexity is precisely why countries like China and choosing restraint, watching from the sidelines as rivals expend energy, steadily expanding influence through long term economic strategies like infrastructure financing across the global south, rather than chasing short term diplomatic optics in stark contrast to Pakistan's history of tactical opportunism where it has repeatedly inserted itself into major geopolitical moments, from the Cold War alliances to facilitating US China reapproachment and later positioning itself in the war on terror, often gaining immediate relevance but ultimately weakening its own internal stability, economy, and social fabric through decades of overdependence on external power and militarized strategies. And while Pakistan's current positioning may once again create the illusion of strategic importance, history suggests these moves rarely translate into sustainable national strength, something India must carefully observe but not imitate, because the bigger concern lies within, as this crisis has once again highlighted India's structural vulnerabilities, ranging from heavy dependence on external energy supplies to ripple effects and fertilizers and inflations, reliance on foreign military hardware and advanced technologies, and a fragile employment ecosystem tied significantly to overseas markets, especially in the Gulf and the United States, raising a fundamental question about whether the true strategic autonomy is even achievable without addressing these deep rooted economic and industrial gaps, because geopolitics ultimately rewards nations that build long term capacity rather than relying on moral positioning or reactive diplomacy. And if India continues to navigate global crisis while constrained by these dependencies, it risks remaining a cautious participant rather than a decisive power, meaning that the real takeaway from this war isn't about being invited to mediate or not, but about whether India is prepared to confront its own limitations with honesty, invest in strengthening its core capabilities over the next 2 decades, and transition from a nation balancing contradiction to one that can independently shape outcomes in an increasingly fragmented world order.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.